For today's project, we're going to start with one of these pumpkin pails. Oops, this one though has a hole in it. We're going to need to tape that off because we need this thing to hold concrete. So put a couple layers on, take that smile, let's get to work. First thing we're going to do is take a bottle that can fit inside the bucket. Any size will do, but it's got to be able to fit inside there because we need to create a cavity. Also, I'm going to put a little bit of a dowel on the bottom with some hot glue just as a spacer and as a drainage point. We're going to set that on there. Now we're going to go outside, and as you can see, I am setting up this concrete outside. It does create a lot of dust. First thing you want to do is pour some water in the bucket before you pour the concrete, then some concrete. I am using gloves because this concrete can really dry out your hands. But once you pour it, make sure you add a little bit more water. We're going for kind of a soupy mix on this concrete. Once you get it stirred up and it's nice and thin, go ahead and put it in the bucket. But I need you all to do me a favor. Next time I pour this concrete, will you guys remind me to put down some cardboard? It does get a little messy on the driveway. What we're going to do though is keep filling this up. And yeah, that's Pam cooking spray. We're going to put that on the bottle and the dowel because it's going to be easier to remove once you put that slippery spray on there. Once we get it filled up, go ahead and stick that right in there, that bottle. But it wants to float. So once we fill up the sides, I notice that it wants to just keep popping up. Tap the sides though. We want to get any air bubbles out that we can. I put a little spacer block inside on top of the handle there, slip it right in, and that way it'll hold it down while the concrete cures. Once we get it set up and in place, let it dry overnight. But the next day, it's going to be ready to go. And here it is in all its glory. Take that block out, but we need to remove the concrete from the pail. Get you a sharp knife, and we're going to go right along behind the handle, down one of the creases. Now be very careful. Keep all your digits and everything out of the way, and just make a couple of passes and cut. Don't cut all the way through at the bottom though, because you can actually reuse this pail by taping up the sides. Once you get it, start pulling it apart. Tip it over if you need to because it's a little heavy. That thing weighs about 15 pounds. And there it is. But we got to get rid of that bottle also. Remember we put that Pam cooking spray? It'll just come right out, but the dowel got stuck in there. So I'm going to grab a pair of pliers and just pull that right out. Now, if you don't have a drainage hole on the second one that I did, just use a drill. You can go ahead and just drill through. That concrete's still soft, and that'll make a great drainage hole. Now it's time to paint. Yep, you got it right. I went with the rustic orange because we want to make this pumpkin look as real as possible. Then I want to paint the eyes. I want those to stand out a little bit. Just a little bit of acrylic black paint will do the work. Again, this will take just a couple of coats. Once that paint dries, we need to put a protective finish on it. This thing's going to sit out in the fall, in the winter. It's going to need something to protect it from all the rain and all the mist and fog. And then it's time to plant. Any little type of plant will do. Remember, it's got a drainage hole. And there it is. Looking great. Add a little bit of water and keep it good. And it's going to greet all those little trick-and-treaters as you come up to the front door. I hope you enjoyed this project as much as I did. Thank you for watching Hometalk, and we'll catch you next time.
For this project, you're going to need a witch hat, a pumpkin pail, a broom handle, a pool noodle, and some gaffer's tape. So the first thing I'm going to do is remove the handle hook from the top so it's empty. Next, I'm going to place it into the grass, and I'm going to use my rubber mallet to pound it down into the ground. I've got a pool noodle, which I'm going to remove the sticker from. Next, I've got some gaffer's tape. And I'm going to start by sticking it to the noodle, and then I'm just going to keep winding it around the noodle, spiraling it down kind of like a candy cane. And you could easily use duct tape for this if you'd rather. Now that I've got my pool noodle ready, I'm just going to slide it on to the broom handle like so. Next, I'm going to take my cool glue gun and load up a bunch of hot glue onto. It's important to use a cool glue gun so that it doesn't melt your pool noodle. Next, I'm going to take a pumpkin pail and I'm going to center it up and place it onto the glue. Next, I've got some orange Halloween lights. I'm going to place some of them in the top of the Halloween pail. And next, I'm going to take and wind these lights around the pool noodle to the ground. Right underneath here, I'm going to place a little dab of hot glue And I've got a little bow to add underneath. Now you could make your own bow if you'd prefer, but I just wanted to give my pumpkin a little extra something. I'm gonna add a little hot glue to the top. And then lastly, I'm going to take this witch hat and place it onto the pumpkin pail. And I hope this inspires you to create a light up pole for Halloween at your home. Again, I'm Chas from Chas's Crazy Creations. Thanks for watching Home Talk, and I'll see you next time. To start this project, you are going to need a tomato cage. So I have the tomato cage upside down with the part that you normally stick into the ground facing up. And then I have a standard plastic pumpkin pail, and I'm gonna go ahead and tip it upside down and slide it over all three of those metal parts. What I've got now is just a regular yard size garbage bag. I'm gonna open it up, slide it over the top, and then I want to make the top so it's centered. Okay, next I've just cut a piece of twine, but you could use a strip of black fabric. You could use, I'll talk about some other options. You could use ribbon as well if you wanted it to be all black. But I'm just gonna take this piece of twine and I'm going to go around. I wanna aim for the pumpkin bucket. I'm just gonna go ahead and tie this in here. What you're doing is you're giving your witch a waist. And you can decide, if you want it to be a bow or not. And then these are gonna be her arms. So you need them to fluff out a little bit so that she's got some arms. So we've got the body kind of done now, so we're gonna talk about the head. And what I'm gonna use is another pumpkin bucket for the head. Now you could leave it forward facing if you want this face, or you could turn it around and draw another face. I'm going to go ahead and leave it mysterious and blank. And what we're gonna do next is glue this to the top. So I'm just gonna go ahead and add a little hot glue. And then we're gonna add the pumpkin on top. Now I want my pumpkin to light up at night, her face. I want it to sparkle. So I got one of these sparkly little lights. I'm gonna go ahead and put that inside her head. Now next, of course, she needs a witch hat. So I'm gonna go ahead and tip it upside down. And I've got these old bags, but you can use fiber fill or whatever you want, and I'm just gonna go ahead and stick them inside. So basically they're like garbage bags or grocery store bags. Then I also just wanna make it so that it sticks up and it has a nice little point to the top of it. And again, I'm trying to think of things that if it's outside and it does get wet because it rains or snows, it's not a big deal. And then I'm gonna go ahead and place this right on top of her head. Now, if you were not gonna put the lights in, you would just hot glue the hat into place. But again, I want to get in and out of mine so that I can turn that light on in the evenings. Okay, so the basic witch is done. So now you can embellish it however you want to. So if you want to add some tulle to her, you can. Again, it really just depends upon where you're gonna be putting her. I think this belt is a little too small, so I'm gonna be contemplating either a black belt for her or maybe a bigger rope belt. You can also cut some slits or some zigzags into her sleeves. Same thing on the bottom. You can take and just make a zigzag pattern so she's maybe a more weathered witch, or maybe she's a good witch and needs some more sparkle or something to her. So personalize your witches. Now I'm gonna be making 3 of them, and we are gonna connect their hands together. So I'll be talking about that next, and I'll be whipping 2 more of these together really fast. Okay, so I've got 2 of them made, the third one's over there. And I'm going to use 1 more garbage bag to make their hands hold together. So I've cut the garbage bag into a long strip. I'm gonna take it in the center. I'm gonna go ahead and make a knot in the center. This is going to be where their hands join together. So I'm gonna aim to put the knot in the middle, and you can make these as long or as short as you want, depending upon how far apart you want your witches. And then I'm gonna take this little corner here, this edge of this, I'm gonna add a little bit of hot glue to it. I'm gonna stick one end of her arm to that. And then I'm gonna do the same thing to the other side. I'm gonna hot glue this piece together. Now, if it's a little easier, you can go ahead and make a little knot on the end so you've got a little something easier to glue. Kind of depends upon where you're displaying them again. But then you just hot glue that together, and now they have arms joining and you can spread them apart. Here are all 3 witches all ready to go outside. And I will show you a couple ways that you can display them in your yard. Here they are all on display, and I'm so excited with how they turned out. Again, I'm Chas with Chas's Crazy Creations. Thanks for watching Home Talk, and I'll see you next time.